Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Luke Beller with the Sideline Scoop. So today, I'm going to be going over Tyler Higbee as the last guy in my three-part video series of tight end sleepers. So this is going to be the final video. If you guys want to see the first two, those two guys are ranked like outside the top 10. So I'll link that in the description below if you guys want to check those out after this video. So today, we're going to be getting into Tyler Higbee and basically why I like him in 2020. What's going on, everybody? So if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Luke Beller. On this channel, I talk about fantasy football in the NFL as well as the Packers sometimes, because I'm a Packers fan. So that's what you can expect. If you want to see some of those things, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. So today, when we take a look at Tyler Higbee and sort of what he did last season, as you can see here in front of you on the screen, he finished the season as the 8th best tight end overall in fantasy football. And as I can see here from his stats right here, for standard, here are his stats from standard. He had 89 targets, 69 receptions for 734 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he had a pretty solid season overall. But one thing that I want to take a look at is basically how well he did in his first 10 games versus his last 6 games, or his last 5 games. Because in the first beginning part of the season, he was doing pretty poorly. He wasn't doing very well at all. And then in the final 5 games of the season, he was actually the best tight end when it came to fantasy, which is crazy. So it sort of just shows what his upside is when he is in the right situation. So I'm going to come here to RotoViz. I've used this before in my other videos, but this basically allows me to do splits. So showing how well he did in those final 5 games versus his first 11 games. So when we take a look here, why is it AJ Brown? Wrong guy. Let me type in the right player right here. What's his name? Tyler Higbee. Sorry for technical difficulties. All right, now we're good. Now we're set. All right, yeah, that still looks a lot nicer. That looks a lot more what I was expecting. Okay, so when we take a look here at Tyler Higbee, as you can see in his final 5 games, he was averaging 21.4 PPR points per game, while in his first, he was only averaging 6 per game. And that's obviously a big difference. And the important thing is to see, like, why did this happen? And basically, why did he go from performing so poorly to becoming the best tight end in fantasy for those final 5 games? And there's a few factors for why this was. In those last 5 games, the other guy who had been getting more targets than him at the tight end position, his name is Gerald Everett. He was actually targeted more in those first 9 or 10 games. He got I think it was 60 targets or something like that. But the reason that Higbee did so well in those final 5 games, in those first 3 games, Everett was injured, and so he didn't play in those games. So Higbee basically was able to take over the starting role and basically had all the tight end targets. And in the final 2 games, Everett only played 4 more snaps. So Higbee basically ran the entire tight end position for those final 5 games, and that's one of the reasons why he was able to put up those solid numbers. And the other reason is this Rams team basically switched to a more tight end-centric offense. So we take a look at basically how they utilize the tight ends in the final 5 games of the season. It was a lot different for how they utilize their tight ends in the second half of the season versus the first half of the season. So we take a look at how many times they used 2 tight ends in their formations. In the first half of the season, they used 2 tight ends 11% of the time. In the second half of the season, they used 2 tight ends 30% of the time. So they almost tripled the amount of 2 tight end sets they have in the field, which obviously benefit Tyler Higbee as well. And also, if we look at the tight end target share, in the first half, it was 21.7% of targets went to tight ends. In the second half, 28.2% of targets went to the tight end position. So as you can see, for Tyler Higbee, the reason he was able to become the #1 guy in those final 5 games, first off, there wasn't much competition, so he was able to shine. Second off, they were utilizing the tight ends. So he was basically in the perfect scenario to basically have those 5 breakout games. And so I think when we look at those 5 games, we see what his upside is. We see what his potential is. So obviously he is #1 potential when it comes to the tight end position. And so when we come and we take a look at 2020, there are a few things to look at, because obviously coming into 2020, Gerald Everett? Yeah, Gerald Everett will be back, and the head coach said he does want to use him as well. So I do not, you should not be expecting Tyler Higbee to put up these kind of numbers every single game, but it shows what is possible. And so I think that with the Rams, you would have to think that when they see how well Tyler Higbee did when they did utilize him a lot, I think that sort of ensures him the tight end 1 position because he did so well. And they signed him to a 4-year, $29 million deal last September. And with Gerald Everett, he is going to be a free agent after this season. So I expect him to be the guy, Tyler Higbee to be the guy that they will really rely on at the tight end position. But you can't count out Gerald Everett completely. And so I think that's sort of why Tyler Higbee right now, if we look at the average draft position ADP on Fantasy Pros, Tyler Higbee in PPR is being taken as a 7th guy. So 7th and 8th, and you can see in this area right here. So that's sort of why, because there's still a little bit of uncertainty with Everett coming back. How will that sort of work out? But I still think that overall, Higbee will be a great player when it comes to the tight end position. He is not going in the top 5 guys, which you have to spend a high draft pick on, but he's still going in the top 10. So 7th overall, so it's not like you're getting these guys later down here, but he's still a solid option. As we know, he has tight end 1 upside, so he could be a guy that you get later in your drafts, later in your rounds. I don't know, maybe like around 6 to 10. Who knows exactly how your league will basically be drafting. But he's a guy you can target late who has tight end 1 upside, and you always want to draft for upside in fantasy football. The only thing to look out for is we don't exactly know what his floor is, because what if Gerald Everett comes in and does take a lot of his snaps and it becomes more of like what Higbee did in the first 10 games of the season where he wasn't very efficient. So there is a little bit of risk with Tyler Higbee in that area. So I want to share that because you guys, need to know it's not just like he only has upside. Like there is potential, like there is a risk reward scenario here. He has a potential to be a top 5 tight end. Well, also maybe he has a potential to slowly drop down and not be as productive as he was last season. So I think you just have to sort of weigh the risk reward of that scenario, decide if you want to risk, having a little bit of uncertainty but the potential to be a top tight end, or you want to go with some kind of safer guy. I don't know. You got to figure out what's best for you. But that's basically what I wanted to lay out in this video, laying out basically his upside, why he did what he did last season, basically how well he can do if he's in the right situation on this Rams offense. So if you guys enjoyed it, I would appreciate if you like this video down below. That would mean a lot. I would appreciate it. But that's going to be all for this video. If you guys want to see some more fantasy content in the future, make sure you subscribe down below to the channel. I post 5 videos every single week. So I have content coming out most days except for 2. That's 5 out of 7. So yeah, that's basically going to be all for this video. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.